Don't believe the hype show.
Every Thursday, fortnightly.
For news, views, reviews, and more.
Join host Barry Kelso and guests from 6:30 p.m. Thursdays, fortnightly.
Don't believe the hype show.
Good evening and welcome to the Don't Believe the Hype show. And once again, we have got Lavinia Masters, who came in last week on our show. This side is going to talk, this part is good segment, is going to talk to you all about what do you do when you've been abused, when you've been sexually assaulted. So once again, we have got Lavinia Masters. But before we get into the show, I want to let you all know, if you would like to come onto our show, reach out to us at 817-655-4105. Give us a call. You can email us at the Don't Believe the Hype Show at gmail.com. And if anybody would like to sponsor our show, feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms. And without further ado, before I go, let me tell you one thing. Everything that we make from our show goes towards the Purple Light Touch Foundation, where we cater for women and young girls who have gone through sexual trauma, abuse, cancer, bullying, any life-altering situation. And our goal is to teach one, reach one, and help them to navigate through their process of what abuse they have faced, because abuse comes in all forms. It's not just sexual abuse that we do. And I have got my book here, When Abuse Invades a Home. This is a book that will navigate you from spousal abuse to childhood abuse to all different types of abuse. And how do you find that healing and taking control back of your life? And this book, you can get it on Amazon. So without further ado, Miss Lavinia, we are going to talk to you because last week you was on our show. We was talking about sexual abuse. I want you to tell the audience your name again, but I want to tell them the real nitty-gritty about Lavinia and what you actually do.
Well, thank you for having me again, Ms.
It's
Miles.
okay.
Don't Believe the Hype show. I'm excited to be here once again. I am Lavinia Masters. As she said, the real nitty-gritty of me. I like to say that I am a pit bull with teeth and I bite. I don't just show my teeth, I bite. And I say that because the work as an advocate, transitioning from a survivor, was a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It was a very tedious journey to get here to be in the position that I'm in as an advocate. I'm not just an advocate. I'm also the namesake of the Lavinia Masters Act, which is a law here in the state of Texas that basically is supposed to help eradicate the rape kit backlog, because I was also a victim of the backlog here in Texas, which I didn't know about in the beginning, but that's exactly what happened when my kit or my evidence sat on the shelf over 21 years of not having my case being evaluated. I was just collecting dust along with about 20 other thousand victims in the state of Texas, about 500,000 nationwide. So when I found out that this was the status of my case, or the incident that happened, they called it suspended, as what I've learned they're still doing today, which was triggering for me, Houston, Texas. And I think another state is doing it as well. They're uncovering these kits. But they were saying that it was suspended, and normally they said because they didn't have enough evidence. But once we reopened my kit, once I requested to have it reopened because of the Debbie Smith law with the funding national, we found out that we had semen, pubic hair, sweat glands, and so much more from our perpetrator. Unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to prosecute because I missed 2 statute of limitations, or they allowed me to miss 2 from not opening my case, which was 5 years after the initial rape and 10 years after the 18th birthday. So I knew I had more work to do in my fight for fighting for victims of sexual violence, because I learned that, like I said, there were 20,000 in the state of Texas. So I began my campaign. Like I said, I'm that pit bull with teeth and I bite. So I started from the top. I wrote letters to the president, to governors. I knocked on legislators' doors. I didn't know where to begin or how to begin, but I'm like, I don't know if you know what happened to me. And if you don't know, I'm about to tell you what happened to me. And I've learned that many other victims in the state of Texas and nationwide is happening too. They are being violated, some of them in their homes, some in the streets, some of them by family members at colleges, and you are gathering their evidence. You're taking them through that invasive process of probing them, getting blood, pricking, and you are actually placing their evidence on a shelf. And so with that noise that I made, it brought light to me. It brought attention to me. CNN was one of the first networks to catch the fire of Lavinia Masters. Before there was a Lavinia Masters, that I think they were like, who is this little black girl in Texas making all this noise? And where did she come from? And it's funny because I remember asking Ed Levendera of CNN. I didn't realize they had so many CNN at the time. But I asked him after so many CNNs, New York, Atlanta, were coming in and out of my home, and Paula Zahn now and Nancy Grace. And I was like, what's the big deal now about this little black girl that's crying rape when you didn't listen to my cries when I was a little black girl in the project? And Ed, I remember Ed looked at me and he said, are you kidding me, Lavinia? He said, you are showing us your face. We can use your name. He said, you're showing us your perpetrator. You're like daring him to come back and try to attack you again. He said, we love that. That's what we want from survivors. And I loved it when he said it to me because that's exactly what I wanted to portray. I wanted to show that I was no longer that victim. I wanted to show other victims that they had the same power. They had the same right. They need to speak up about things that happened to them. They need to cry out about their injustices. We have been suffering in silence for far too long. And so that is Lavinia Masters. I'm just not about a talk. I'm about the work. I'm about advocating for victims of sexual violence. I'm on the governor's sexual assault task force. I'm on TASA's sexual assault advisory board with Texas Association Against Sexual Violence here in the state of Texas. That's our coalition. I'm on the advisory board there. Last year, or year before last year, I was inducted to the Texas Women Hall of Fame for my work. I just got an award last weekend. Last weekend, a Courage Award. And I have the OVC Justice Department Award. And oh my God, NOVA honorary award. So many awards I've received for the work I've done as Lavinia Masters. And honestly, none of that really matters to me. What matters to me is that I get the opportunity to empower other survivors to do the same work, to have the opportunity to be healed, to at least try to understand they need healing. What does that look like? How do I navigate that? How do I get to that point? I want little Lavinia Masters, old Lavinia Masters, big Lavinia Masters. I want you everywhere. I want us to infiltrate the world.
So how can somebody help you if they need to further your cause?
To help me, you can always reach out to me on my website, laviniamasters.com. And there are so many avenues we can chat. You can find me on social media. I love social media. And we can chat. We can find out how we can fit you in. I know right now we are taking applications for the Sexual Assault Advisory Board in the state of Texas only. But there are so many other avenues that you could possibly work with us or find ways that you can dive into, or just start your own little campaign for whatever happened to you as a victim. I could possibly help you navigate that. If you have any ideas of any laws that you think you should change when it comes for survivors of sexual violence or relationship violence in the state of Texas, this is what I take great pride in doing, in assisting our state.
So are abusers affected by the law?
They are.
Okay.
And we're excited about that because now with like the Lavinia Masters Act, where we couldn't prosecute because of the statute of limitations, now the clock doesn't start. If you're assaulted in the state of Texas, the clock doesn't start until that DNA evidence is ran. Versus before, the clock started as soon as the report, the assault was reported. Okay. So that's how we missed out. So now they have 90 days to process the evidence, And if we get backlogged because of training, or we don't have the staff, or we don't have, whatever excuses they have for us to say they can't do it, that clock still does not start until that DNA evidence is ran. And so we're given 90 days to run that. And then once the clock starts, we have 50 years. So
Okay.
that's the beautiful part about it. So within 50 years, we should be able to come up with something and figure out some way of justice. Another part of the Lavinia Masters Act is also, if you are willing to come forward and give the evidence, but you're not willing to give your name as of yet, you have a 5-year clock with that. And that's amazing to me, because a lot of these sexual assaults don't happen stranger on stranger. It could be someone you went to college with, or someone you know.
That's one of the things I was going to say, because we've had some questions, because this is going to be like a lot of questions that viewers have brought in from last week. And there was a young girl, she was molested, went home, for a sleepover, and she was molested as a child. Well, she was a child, and she still is a child. She's now 16. What can she do? Would she still be covered under, because she was molested at somebody else's house?
Yes, she would still be covered. She would have to still notify her, of course, the parents. So
The parents know,
so they can report it to authorities, or what have you. And once it's reported to authorities, if they are uncomfortable saying we're ready to prosecute and move forward, at least gather that evidence, make that initial report, and she will have a 5-year clock before she decides if she's ready to move forward with that case. But the thing about it is, the beautiful part about gathering that evidence is, if that person has done this to somebody else that had the courage to report, I'm not saying that this person doesn't have the courage, but they were ready to move forward with that individual, that is something solid that we have for them as well.
She said that the person that molested her was like a best friend's dad. And she reported it to her mom straight away. But so she is still living with that kind of trauma, because she's now 16. I think this happened to her when she was 13, 14, 13, around that age when it happened to her. I can't remember. So, you know what I mean? So would she still be, like, she wanted to know, would I still, if I wanted to pursue this even at the age of 18, 19, could she still pursue something?
Yes, she should be able. She has a 5-year window, so 13 to 18. Yes, she should be fine to do that. And there is no statute of limitations on getting resources and help, as far as counseling and therapy or what have you. And she can always do that by going to the TASA website, TAASA website, and they will give you all the resources in the state of Texas for help. And then if she's not in the state of Texas, it depends on the state and their laws. TASA still has the national website where they can get the resources for that website. But their resources for each state should also tell her what her limitations are if she's outside of the state of Texas, because some states actually never had a statute of limitations when it came to sexual abuse, and that's a beautiful thing.
And another lady reached out. She says that, well, she's about 24 now. She was at school. She was gang raped by some guys, and the school didn't do anything about it. So she's gone through her trauma. So what can she do now to get help? Because this happened like 4 years ago. How can she get help?
If she never gathered the evidence, reporting it and allowing them to do a SANE exam on her, it will probably be hard for her to pursue, in a sense of having that hardcore evidence. But still reporting, there's still possibilities of her reporting, and if she knows the guys, or she can properly identify them for the things against them, it may be, I'm not gonna lie, it may be harder in court if she goes to court with it, because now it's going to be he said, she said, and then you have the whole ordeal of them saying consent, which most perpetrators will run to immediately, saying it was consensual, something that they agreed upon. And I know no one agrees upon gang rape, but you would be amazed of what these perpetrators would try to get away with a straight face. So I mean, but resources are still available for her as far as getting help, getting assistance. She just have to reach out and make that effort to get that help.
Another question that we had was, what is the difference between sexual assault, molestation, and rape? Can you highlight and let the audience know what the difference is?
Okay, sexual assault is basically the umbrella. It's
Mm-hmm.
how and it's basically to me like a play on words. Because molestation normally it's by a family member that you know, but it's still a sexual assault because they were
Okay.
inappropriate with you. Rape is more, it sounds more heinous because that's an actual penetration uh, from an individual. And normally they say it's from a stranger or someone you didn't know, but you can be raped by someone you do know if they penetrate you. So they kind of put it under the umbrella of sexual assault. It was a sexual assault. If it's groping, if it's like you said in our previous segment we did last week, you spoke of your incident
Yeah.
in the UK, that would be considered a sexual assault, even though he didn't penetrate you in a sense with his, with his penis, but he did it with his hands or instruments, and he violated you basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all under sexual assault. So we have to be careful how we are inappropriate with people or how we touch them without their permission, without their consent. I know a lot of times growing up, young folks, and after I was raped at 13, I had a real hard time going back to school because I felt like I was being thrown into a hostile environment. Young boys with their hormones, figure they can grab you, touch you, grab your breast, this and that, grab your butt. Oh, very inappropriate. And you find that still happens. And when I go speak at high schools and I tell the young people that that's inappropriate and sexual assault, I mostly find young girls will reach out to me, send me emails like, "Oh my God, Dr. Lavinia, I was molested or I was sexually assaulted by my classmate or he's abusing me, and what do I do now?" So it's very important that we educate our young folks about inappropriate touch. It's not just how we used to do with our kids. Don't touch here. We have to be very detailed and make sure they understand because no one is exempt from being sexually assaulted, and no one is entitled to sexually assault someone.
See, like for me, and another incident that happened to me, and like I says, I know you don't think of being sexually assaulted by certain, I mean, individuals. I love dancing. I ain't gonna tell nobody no lie. This woman loves dancing because I am now. I used to love dancing, and this is all like most of my incidents happened back in England. It didn't happen in this country because you have to remember I didn't come here till I was 48 years old. And I was at a nightclub and a guy asked me to dance with me. But in England, we dance close up and we'll go on the wall and we'll dance. And I told him I didn't want to dance, but he came, put his body against mine. And basically, he came. And I hated that feeling. So now when I go out clubbing, you stay there, I will stay here because I still to this day can't dance with no one because I don't want no one to violate my body. That was my space. You know what I'm saying? So, but you don't look at that as a sexual assault. You just think, oh, it's just a guy just dancing and people thought it was just okay.
Right.
But that is still
a sexual assault.
It's you know what I mean?
It is.
So people need to understand sexual assault. Anytime anybody does something to you that you did not consent to, that is sexual assault. You know what I mean? Even if
It makes you feel uncomfortable.
Even if you're a husband and wife, and because people don't realize that being in a marriage does not give that man consent to come in and have sex with you. If you tell him no, you're not in that mood, and he still comes after you, that is still sexual assault. That's still a violation against a woman.
You're disrespecting boundaries.
You understand what I'm saying?
And in a marriage, you should have healthy boundaries. You should be able to communicate and articulate that.
Mm-hmm.
But if a person is abusive, and you hear women with husbands that are alcoholics and beating them and slapping them around, and you're going to do, it. Some people say, well, that's my husband. The Lord says,
and that's a line that people like to use.
and it's a very thin line, is what it is. And so, especially when a victim is under that abusive spell, I hate to say that, but a lot of victims are under that spell, and they feel they have to accept it. We talked about being toxic last week, and that's what happens. We're so used to that toxic, and we think it's okay because especially if he's going to spiritually abuse me and tell me what the Bible said I come in and do what I want, get ready to have, I want
And
to do
that's
it.
what
And
a
that's
lot
what
of people
happens.
tend to
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
do that, because they don't realize that the Bible doesn't give that man that right to abuse you, because God doesn't like abuse
Yeah.
under no shape, no form.
And that's why,
whether it's
you
sexual.
need to have these conversations. I
Mhm.
don't care how uncomfortable they may seem. You have to have these conversations. Like I told you, I feel like I was being thrown in a hostile environment going back to school. And I remember you talked about a dance. I remember this guy, and he came to dance with me, and he came and he called it, I think they called it uh, boning. Yeah, I think they called it boning. And I'm like, okay, you have an erection while you're dancing with me, and you're all up. It's like literally you're having sex with me in my
Yeah,
clothes. I did not like that.
I
And he was
know.
like, girl, it's just boning. I'm like, no,
No,
I
it's
don't agree
horrible.
with this. This is not, you don't have permission to do this with me. But we don't have these conversations, especially with our young girls, teaching them, and our young men. They need to know what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. With our young girls, if they feel like they're being pressured or everybody's doing it, or
That's right.
I'm just I'm a square. I was called a square, and I was called tight. I had different names for me, but I'm like, no, I've been victimized, and I shouldn't have to tell it to everybody. You should just respect my space, respect my wishes. Respect my boundaries that I set forward. If I say this is inappropriate, I'm uncomfortable with this, respect that. And those are the conversations we have to have, but we don't. And then it turns toxic for everybody, because now I'm afraid to talk about it. I won't speak about it. Oh, it's okay. Well, he really likes me. He meant no harm. He's my husband. Well, he said the Bible said, and it gets murky. It's like you get into a cesspool of mess, that's hard to get out and clean up because you've dwelt in there for so long. But you have to have those conversations. You have to deal with it.
And someone asked a question about social media,
Yes.
right? That,
Yes.
like, you've got TikToks and you've got all these
Yes.
social media platforms now that is showing women half naked, and
Yes.
basically it's our fault why we're being raped. What would you, or being molested? Are your thoughts on that?
Um, okay, so when I see, and this is me, and people can love me or hate me, but it's okay. Like I said, I bite. Um, I don't understand the purpose of us having to reveal everything to everybody in the world. Even before I was a victim of sexual assault, my grandmother and my mother raised me to believe that my body was a temple, that I should treasure it, that I was a prize to my husband, that I was a gift. And I took that I took that. I believe that's why I was so devastated when I was raped, because I'm like, you took something from me that didn't belong to you. This belonged to my husband. In my mind,
Yeah,
that's what I thought. We all the dressing loosely, breasts hanging out, showing your butt. No, you leave a man is to imagine, what
yes,
he's going to get from you. He can pick up a loose woman anywhere, but the good girls he's going to bring home to mama, because that's the one he's going to want to marry. This was my mindset. And I'm like, I may be old fogey to think that way, but I still think that's the best way. And when I see women and young girls, and some people have told me I body shame, baby, let me tell you something. I ain't always been a big girl. My husband would tell you I was all that in a bag of chips when he met me. And I knew that, but I didn't have to show that to the
yeah,
world. I still wore my long dresses, my long sleeves. I covered myself up because I took pride in me and who I was. I didn't want to expose myself. I understood me being a victim of rape. Some people can't handle that. They cannot handle, not making an excuse for them to violate you, but they already can't handle you being fully clothed. So now you come out here like a buffet for them, and it's like, and they're gonna say in their mind, she wanted it.
that's right.
She invited me, even though you didn't. I'm not saying
Mhm.
it gives them a right, but that's what a monster says, because I classify them as monsters because they don't think. They don't have a way of thinking. They don't have a mindset of what's proper and improper when you violate someone the way you do. So I call them monsters. So I'm not going to give you a buffet. I'm not going to give you a free for all, to take advantage of me. And I'm walking down the street half naked or butt naked, and I'm not going to expect, honestly, why should I get frustrated if you do cat calls to me? Now I'm fully dressed and you do cat calls. Yeah, I'm gonna have attitude, but but if I'm half naked, I probably be like, maybe I want a little attention. And I'm not saying this is everybody, but we have to think. We have to think. We have to think about self-preservation and protecting ourselves from those predators.
So, but nowadays,
Hmm.
I cannot blame all the children,
No.
because our generation, and where our kids can wear half naked clothes.
Yes.
We're the ones buying the clothes for
Yes,
our
we are.
children.
Yes, we
Right? We
are.
can turn around and tell the
Yes, we
government,
are.
we don't want these short clothes. I remember we had to wear a nice long
Mhm.
dress to
We
church.
sure
We
did.
was covered. We had a
Yes,
little
ma'am.
bow in our hair, little
Yes,
white
ma'am.
socks and shoes and
Yes,
everything. And we all
ma'am.
got marched to church and we all was spick and
Yes,
span.
ma'am.
Nowadays, they're telling you you can come to church as you are, and people are now coming to church half naked. You know what I'm saying? Going to funerals. You wouldn't even know they were going to
Right,
a funeral.
right.
You would think they were going to a dance club. But who is buying these clothes for our children to be half naked? And then when they talk about rape, we don't want to believe, because at the end of the day, the parents, some of them don't even have the time to believe the child and see what that child is wearing.
And they allow their children to do almost anything.
You know, and
And
that's
you're setting them up. You're setting them up for failure.
hmm
You're setting them up for trauma. And you don't even realize because you think it's cute. Oh, let them be them. Oh, I want them to be who they are. Let them walk into their own. Let them be free. That's not fair. That's
that's not,
not
that's right.
how it's designed
No, it
to
isn't.
be. And you don't have to be a hardcore, can't do this, can't do that, can't. It's just teaching your children
Values.
about values and
That's right.
morals and safety. All of that goes together. And and this is part of our job. I learned the Bible teaches us as the elder women. I hate to cringe when I say the elder women, but part of our jobs is to teach the younger women.
That's right.
And it's not like that anymore.
No.
I still try to teach, and I get backlash because they, oh, you think you? No, I don't.
No,
I'm
because
doing what I'm instructed as a woman of God. I feel
Mhm.
I'm instructed to do. So if I can give you some good advice or try to help you along the way, I should look at all these women as my daughters, and that's how I look at them. I look at them as my daughters. You can receive it or reject it. It's just like receiving or rejecting Christ as your Savior. It's free to
it's
give,
really
and
that's
if
right.
you want them, you can. If you don't, you don't. But I just want to give it to you. I want to lay it out there. I'm like, this is how you can be. This is how you should be. Present yourself as a what a woman of favor is. Everybody wants to be a Proverbs 31 woman, but
They
you
don't
want
even know the truth about the Proverbs
exactly,
31 woman. Half of them don't even
and
know the
so
truth. Because, like I always tell with people, at the beginning of the Proverbs 31 woman, there's a
yes,
Proverbs 31 man. And they've
yes,
missed that part. You know
yes,
what I mean? When the woman
yes,
had the baby in the womb, she said,
yes,
don't put your hands on a woman and don't take strong drink. And
yes.
nowadays, what I don't like is when a woman, if you leave a man, you
Mm.
feel you have to jump into bed with another
Another
man
man.
straight away. And sometimes that man is coming into the home and you don't even know that man's got an agenda, because you've got three daughters
Got
in
three
the house.
daughters. Hmm.
And he's not coming for you, he's coming for your daughters.
Yes.
And let one of them turn around and tell you that that man is touching you. No, you're only saying that because you don't like him or
Hmm.
whatever. You're not trying to believe your daughter, because this man is probably giving you money.
Yeah.
This man is making
Hmm.
making you feel good within
Hmm.
yourself. But a man should not have to make a woman feel good about herself.
Mm-mm.
That woman should already have felt good
About
about
her,
herself,
exactly,
and she's
exactly.
supposed to portray that good to her children. Because at the end of the day, as women, if we don't teach our children values,
Yes,
then they're going to end up in relationships, being
yes,
abused, sexually abused,
yes,
molested, going out there taking money from all different types of
yes,
men, because
yes,
they don't know any better, because they've seen mommy
yes,
do it, they've seen grandma do it,
exactly.
they've seen the best friend do it, they see people around them do
Right,
it.
right,
And it's
right.
like us, we going back to the beginning, this was one of the questions. What do I do if I'm in the house and my mommy's boyfriend is molesting me? How do I tell my mom that I'm being molested by her boyfriend when she's at work?
I would definitely tell my mom. My mom, if my mom doesn't believe me, or if that conversation goes totally south, I would find someone else that I feel I can trust to tell. But I have to tell someone. You have to tell someone. That trauma that will be left on you will devastate and change the trajectory of your entire life if you don't stop it or if you don't reveal it to someone. And another thing I want to say to your listening audience and to anybody that hears my voice, if you've ever been through any kind of trauma, sexual abuse, or relationship violence, before you move forward or try to even attempt to get into another relationship, you have to understand that you have to heal from that previous trauma. You have to. Even if you don't know what healing looks like, you have to have in your mind, I have to heal. And I got to find out how that looks, because if not, you are setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
If you have children involved, you're setting them up for failure.
Mhm.
You are setting yourself up for self-sabotage and total destruction if you don't understand you need healing. I didn't know I needed healing after my rape. I didn't understand that. I'm grateful to God that He began to show me, and I took the path and I stuck it through. But some people don't stick it through.
No.
I have family members who are deceased now, drugs, alcoholics, all kind of things have happened to them, horrible diseases, and they've all endured sexual trauma. We didn't even understand growing up how that it was like a cesspool within our own family, how that was affecting us. Marriages destroyed, children get into things because, like I talked about vicarious trauma on last week, how that carries over. Those
That's
children
right.
see the trauma.
That's right.
If they see you in unhealthy relationships, if they see you doing unhealthy things, unhealthy acts, you know what? This is how it's supposed to be. That's how they identify love, that toxic. A lot of things. My mom went through sexual abuse, rape, and domestic violence. What I saw with her, than me dealing with my abuse, deal with it.
You know
Get
what I'm
over
saying?
it.
Just get over it.
Just get
because
over it.
That's right. That's why I wrote this book, When
Yes,
Abuse
ma'am.
Invades a Home.
Yes,
You know
ma'am.
what I mean? Because it's a topic that we keep on wanting
Yes.
to sweep under the carpet.
Yes.
How much longer are we going to keep sweeping the
Yes.
topic of
Under the rug.
under
Yeah.
the rug when abuse
Yeah.
invades a home? People think abuse happens out in the street. No, it's most
Right
of the
in the
time it's
home.
right in the home. You need to get this book. Like I said, you can get it on Amazon. You can, if you call me, I will send you a copy. You know what I mean? Because it's such a detrimental
It
thing.
is.
Because
It is.
I was speaking to a lady even up to last night. She says, Valerie, do you know that 85% of my friends have been abused?
Yes.
And you know how old this woman was? She was nearly 70 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's telling me that 85% of her
I
friends
believe it.
have been abused.
I believe it.
And I'm thinking, wow, she's nearly 70
I
years
believe
old.
it.
And she's had surgeries, because that's what people don't understand. A lot of times when women are taking all these surgeries, it's because that trauma is stuck in the body. It's like a
Yeah.
trauma bond,
Yeah.
but it's bonding to your body,
Body,
and
right.
it's not letting the cells rejuvenate how
Or
it's
heal.
supposed to
Right.
heal. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Another
Because I've been through that. I've been through
Right.
multiple abdominal surgeries, you know. And like I said earlier on previous show, we talked about how they said I wouldn't have kids. And it's like I've had abdominal issues, women issues, just surgery after surgery after surgery, trying to heal, you know. And I know it's from the past. I know it's from the past. And those are things that you said we don't talk about it and we don't deal with it. And eventually it affects your mental health. It
That's
depresses you. It stresses you. You have anxiety, and you have to get it under control. Destroying the root cause of it all is dealing with that trauma, and that's either that sexual or that relationship violence that you've endured.
Another thing, one last question of you. Well, there's several, but this is the last one we're going to take.
Okay.
Right, because a lady says because she went through abuse and she never told her family members, they classed her as a problem child. And now she's in foster care, right? What can you tell her? Because she's going from foster care to foster care, because every time she goes somewhere, they keep on wanting to abuse her because they know her backstory, and because they believe her, but they don't believe her. What can we tell this young lady that's going through this issue right now?
And she's in foster care still today.
She's in foster care.
She definitely needs to find her voice, the safe space where her voice can be heard. Obviously, she's in all the wrong spaces, but she has to keep talking, even if she has to speak at school, wherever she is outside of those homes. or what have you until someone hears her voice to get her to safety. Because as long as she's bounced around and ignored, she will never get in that space where she will feel safe enough to come out of that, because she's going to have to start healing. But being ignored, being silenced, and continue to suffer in silence, you will never find that space. You'll never find that safe space to heal. And my heart goes out to her. And even if she has to reach out to me or send me an email or whatever, and we can put our heads together and figure out how we can get some sort of resources or somebody in to investigate or give her some sort of answer. Something has to be done, because she has to break that cycle. She has to break that cycle and refuse to believe that this is your destiny and you're to remain in that rut that you're in, because it's not. The enemy is so subtle, and how he makes us think that things are going to stay or remain a certain way, and it doesn't have to be. So we're here for you. We're resources for you, or anybody for that matter, that's listening to our voices and feel that they are trapped and there's no way out. There is always a way out. There's always a way out. You may not see it, but there's always a way out. And I believe, and when you have a strong faith in God like I do, He's shown me that He is the way, and I trust Him, and I trust His processes, in whatever way that He show or leads me to get out or escape or reveal things for me. That's the direction I go, and I believe that for everybody that has a strong faith or belief in God. So if you're out there listening to us, there is hope. There is a way. It doesn't have to remain this way. You don't have to stay trapped. You don't have to stay like abuse is your vicious cycle. You have that power to break those curses, and you have to believe that and be willing to do so.
And it's funny because this is going to be our final thoughts. And I'm still going to ask you the last question. What does Don't Believe the Hype mean to you? As you can see, myself and Lavinia is here on this platform. Both of us have been through our own traumas from a young age to where we are at this time. I'm nearly 60. Lavinia, I'm not sure how old she is, and that's up to her, whatever age she wants to tell people. As you heard, you just coughed, right? But I'm nearly 60 years old, and I can assure you, no matter what age you are, you can find the healing that you need. Whether it's finding a school counselor, whether it's finding someone that you trust, you've got to find someone who you can talk to get rid of any form of trauma that's inside of you. Purple Light Touch Foundation, that's what we do. We bring women and young girls in here at no cost to you to come in, and we will give you the healing, and we will love upon you, and you can talk and you can cry, you can vent, you can do whatever you want at our foundation. That's what Purple Light Touch Foundation stand for. As you can see, Lavinia, she's gone through her own trauma, but look at where she is today. There is a law after her, the Lavinia Masters law. Hashtag Lavinia Masters, you know what I mean? And you'll join the movement. Join the movement for women who have been sexually abused, that you don't have to sit in what you've gone through. There is a way out. And trust me, when you find that way out, you will see the light, and you can be an advocate for somebody else. Because I know your friend is also going through what you're going through, but because we don't want to talk about it, it keeps on being a hush hush. This is our time to start talking, because mental health is real. And many of our young girls are going through mental health because they haven't got a voice. They haven't got no one who is going to sit down and listen to them, believe their story. Because, you know what I mean? Oh, she was half naked anyway. She had the long hair. She had the wig. She had the false eyelashes. Look how she was carrying herself. That doesn't give nobody the right to put their hands on you, rape you, touch you, abuse you. It doesn't give nobody that right. So without further ado, Miss Lavinia, I want to ask you, what does Don't Believe the Hype mean to you, and your final thoughts before we close?
My final thoughts on Don't Believe the Hype. Don't believe the hype that you have to stay in the rut that you're in. Don't believe the hype that life has poured you so many lemons that you don't have the sugar to make the lemonade that you need out of life. I just want everybody to be empowered today that listens to us, and to know that this is not the end of your life because you have been traumatized. I also need you to understand, as you touched on mental health and Mental Health Awareness Month, the month of May, that especially as young people, we don't even realize how our mental health is affected and the toll that it
That's
takes
right.
on us. And we don't realize how now we have so much anxiety and so many stresses and so many things that we worry about. One of my things as a young girl growing up was death, and I would read the obituaries, and I didn't realize that was taking a toll on my mental health because of the trauma that happened to me. And you need to understand, even that anger and that frustration, that figure that you can beat everybody up when that come your path, that walks by your path, because that was me. It's just not believing that is your destiny, that you were destined for greater. That's what I believe the hype is. The hype is not hype, it's hope. And hope in who you are, what you were destined to be, what God has created you to be. Know that you are worthy, that you are valuable, that you are priceless, and that you can change the whole entire trajectory of anything that has happened to you, no matter how horrific it was.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming on to our show.
Thank you for having me again.
And so, before you go, can you is your website? Is there a website that people can reach you?
Yes, there is a website. It's Lavinia Masters, Lavinia Masters with the S.com is my website. All of my contact information is there. You can reach out to me if you want me as a speaker, presenter. Like I said, I do so much, so many things. You can find it all on the website. Reach me there. Social media, Masters Lavinia Masters, or Dr. Lavinia Masters. You see my face, that's me. And so I'm here for you. And I will do all I can to support you, help you, navigate you, whatever I can to make sure that you get the help and the resources that you need so you can begin to heal after your trauma.
Thank you. And we will tune in next week where we're going to have another show. And so you all have a wonderful and blessed evening.